Welcome to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. Many women are stuck in a dead-end job and know deep down inside that they really have more potential. But they have that fear of taking the next step, that negative talk in their head that exacerbates the fear of walking away from a paying job to becoming an entrepreneur. Pamela Ruebusch, CEO of TSI Group Inc, is here to share her experience of resilience, which is the key to entrepreneurship. So Pamela, welcome to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
So I want to ask you a question. I know many women right now that are working for a corporation and, have these wonderful visions of becoming an entrepreneur, or have actually been offered a position to be taken off of a salary and start, working on a commission job. And that's really difficult for a lot of women to make that decision and move on to the next. So I know that you were in a job that was paying you a regular salary before you became an entrepreneur at 25. So how did you make that jump?
Well, Liz, it was really an easy decision because the job that I was in, the owner of the company wasn't doing so well. And one day the company went under. So at the time, my colleague and I just jumped in. We had no business plan. We weren't planning it, but we knew that there were clients to be served. And so we basically leaped into it and never looked back.
So what is the biggest challenge that you have to go through operating your own firm? Because I know that I've talked to you before, and you're always worrying about other people, that your employees, you're always worrying about their families. So what challenges do you go through?
Well, I think when you're an entrepreneur and you have your a boutique business like ourselves, it's really important to think on the business as well as working in it. One of the pitfalls that entrepreneurs do is that they work too much in the business. You have to know, it's almost like snorkeling. You have to be able to look up as well as look down as to where the business is going and make sure that you're taking care of the details along the way, but then bring in the right people that's going to help you expand and scale the business.
I think it's important that you said that, looking at details, but sometimes entrepreneurs are extremely myopic and they are so focused on picking a carpet or the color of the paint on the wall that they're missing, the big picture.
Yes. Well, I think you really need to make sure that you've got the right team in place. And when you have that, you make sure that you're not doing everything and stretched so thin. But that is a classic difficulty in being an entrepreneur.
I love the fact that you said, you have to surround yourself with really good people, because I don't know it all. I'm sure you don't know it all. We're really good at what we do, but we really need to have that team support us and surround us.
Yes. And my team, it's like a family. And I know what my strengths are, and I know what my weaknesses are. And I made sure that in building the team, operationally as well as from the business development side, that we were covering off on everything we needed to be. But we really think as one brain at TSI, which is really key to making sure that the right and the left hand knows what's happening.
And, let's take that a step further. Share with us the importance of having a good financial advisor to help you. Because I have a friend who is an entrepreneur, and she's creative and wonderful, but doesn't like the financial part of it and doesn't pay attention to it as well.
Well, being a small business owner, it's really important to have good financial advisors that you can trust and that let them do their job. Things like tax planning for small business. There's so many things that can be done as a small business. You have to listen to your advisors and make sure that you're implementing the right things. And you have to have key advisors beyond finance, your banker, your lawyer, to make sure that they're giving you good advice and that you trust them.
And that's important, trusting them, the people that you trust. I mean, it's got to be a mutual thing. It's a really good relationship, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So why is it important for companies to be aligned with their leadership teams? You look at different organizations and they basically start looking outside to try to align themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to make sure that every employee from the senior leadership team on down have an understanding of what the culture is, what the business stands for, and that everybody is aligned. And when you have that, you get more empowerment and engagement of your team.
So, Pamela, what are the three most important qualities that an entrepreneur needs?
Well, I think the three would be fortitude, confidence, and continuous improvement. And why I say that is that you need to have fortitude and be able to keep propelling yourself no matter what happens, because there will be ups and downs along the way. Confidence, and many women don't have the confidence that they could have, and if they actually are engaged and believe in themselves, then they will have the right amount of confidence. And then continuous improvement, we are all on a journey. So once we learn that life and business and work is a journey, we will never stop learning and we will continuously improve.
So I want to step back to confidence, because I've spoken to a lot of young women in university, and one of the things that they talk about is they lack confidence. So what would you say to somebody who is lacking the confidence and thinking that they're not as good as anyone else, and they'll be a failure if they decide to go out on their own?
Yeah. Well, Liz, there is a survey that's been done out there, and 80% of the time when a man is not qualified for a job, he'll put up his hand, but only 20% of the time does a woman put up her hand for that same job. So we have a lot of work to do to close that gap. And really it's two things: making sure that we believe in the things we can do and take away the negative chatter of the things that we can't. Because I always say that we're failing our way into success, because that's where the learning comes in. And nobody's going to be 100% of what they need to be. You just have to jump in and go for it.
I totally agree with you. And I hear so many people saying, well, I have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I watched an interview with Barbra Streisand, and they had asked her about an album that she had been recording. And, how did you get to the perfection of that album or the perfection of the song? And she said, no, that doesn't exist. Because once you get to the perfect level that you think it's perfect, then the level just keeps going higher and higher. And all you do is keep disappointing yourself as time goes by.
Yes. Well, that's just a very good point, because like an artist, a singer, it's never done. A painting is never done. Business is never perfect. It's always work in progress, and it's timing as well. So just knowing that you have to jump into it and it won't be perfect, and that's okay.
It is okay. So you talked about surrounding yourself with really good people. What about mentors? How have you used mentors throughout your entrepreneurship?
Yes. Very early on when I started my business at 25, my clients became my mentors, and I learned from them, and they helped prop me up. My family, having a strong family unit, my father was always an entrepreneur, taught me a lot. And then also the colleagues or the people, the TSI family that I've surrounded myself by. We learn from each other, but you do need strong mentors no matter what.
So what advice would you give to young people right now, today, that say, I want to go and start my own business?
I would say do research, but don't wait too long. If you're passionate and you know that it's a good opportunity to try, even if you fail, you should then go into it and see what happens.
So I want to just talk about COVID quickly, because has it changed your way of thinking? A lot of corporations are hybrid. A lot of corporations want people to stay home. A lot of corporations want everyone back in the office again.
Yeah. Liz, this is a really tough thing for leadership teams to really understand what's that fine balance. And we do need work-life balance. However, there has to be a little bit more nimbleness and flexibility, I think, of employers today. Otherwise, they will start to lose good people. So we have to figure out, what does good look like so that the company has to win? There's a saying out there, we are free as a company, but you need profits to be free. You need a strong culture to be profitable, to be free. But it can't be all about the employee. It can't be all about the employer. They have to figure it out. But this is a challenge that's being faced right now.
So we have about 20 seconds left. How challenging is it today to find the right person for the right job?
It's very tough in making sure that that cultural fit is there. And if people, we're finding we have to build bigger pipelines of candidates in order to find the right people who are suitable and interested to make a move for these roles that we're recruiting for out there in the market.
Okay, so thank you so much. We will be right back with more of Pamela and resilience and being an entrepreneur. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski, where we're discussing resilience, the key to entrepreneurship. And Pamela, prior to the commercial break, we were talking about that negativity that a lot of women have in their head. And, I find it really fascinating that we are the only ones that can hear that. Nobody else can hear it. So when we look at other people, we think, my gosh, they're so successful, and look at them, they're wonderful, their life is perfect. And yet we've got this debilitation that keeps bringing us down. So how did you deal with the negativity?
Well, I had a major event happen to me in 2005. I ended up buying out my business partner. And so the negative thoughts in my head were, can I do this on my own? And it was really important for me to really have that self-talk and say, well, what do I want to keep evolving as my business? What do I want to keep creating? And with my team. And so I ended up making that really hard decision. But there was a lot of fear and negativity that crept in. And I just ended up working and pushing through that and making the decision to go it on my own. So since 2005, we ended up, evolving as a business. And, the journey has continued now for 32 years. And we're still having fun. And I know that I made the right decision.
Okay, so I want to step back and talk about decisions, because during COVID, I spoke to a lot of young women in university. And the one question that just kept coming up over and over again was, how do you make a decision? And, I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, we don't know how to make a decision. Mm-hmm. So how did you make your decision? And what would you say to anyone out there that's struggling, especially if they're going through a big change in their life, or whether it's personal, whether it's work? Like, how do they actually make that decision and move forward?
Yeah, I think you really do need good mentors and good people behind you that can give you that advice. So you do have to have your circle of trust, of people that you can go to. But at the end of the day, you have to really believe and be passionate. If you don't have the passion, and you can have the confidence, but if you don't have the passion with the confidence and the commitment, then that's the sort of the trifecta of what's important in order to make a business work. Because being an entrepreneur, there's always going to be ups and downs. And I've certainly seen my share of them in 32 years. But you have to keep believing in why you're doing what you're doing. And be passionate about it.
I often talk about entrepreneurs going through blood, sweat, and tears, right? As you said, the trifecta, there's so much that goes on in there. And, what were your toughest moments? And what were your biggest hurdles as well? Because I'm sure a lot of other people have gone through the same thing.
Yes. Well, I think, there's been definitely hurdles along the way of, the business going up. And then in 2008 with the economy and the recession, business going down and having to let some staff go, and then rebuilding and evolving. But I think that the key thing, Liz, is you can't stay where you are. You always, like the universe, it's always in motion. And so too do your ideas and your thoughts and your vision have to keep moving. And if we stay still, we will be left behind. So that was one of the biggest lessons I learned, is who we started out as a company, being more of a recruiting company in a niche area, to becoming a full-fledged executive search firm, retained firm. It really has been an evolution to date of how we think, how we actually present to our clients who we are, what we value, and then building those trusted partnerships. And that's why keeping to clients for many, many years, it's been very good for us to have those repeat clients, but then also forging ahead to look towards new customers as well.
I often tell young people to constantly learn and ask questions. And that's exactly what you've just been saying right now. You have to keep evolving. You have to keep learning. Life is so short and long at the same time. And if you don't learn, you'll get left behind.
Yes. And it is constantly evolving. And if you're not curious, then you are not learning. And you also have to be open to say, I don't know what I don't know. And always there is this methodology that talks about the stuff you know, the stuff you don't know. Always be in that quadrant of I don't know what I don't know, because then life continues to be interesting and you're continuing to be surprised and learning. And that's what makes it interesting and fun.
And we will continue to speak to Pamela when we come back after this commercial break in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. We're discussing resilience, the key to entrepreneurship with Pamela Ruebusch, CEO of TSI Group Inc. Pamela, resilience. This is the topic of today's show. So what exactly is entrepreneurial resilience?
Well, in a short phrase, I would say it's you never give up. So if you don't have that as your mantra in the beginning, then you won't necessarily be able to continue with being successful, because there are so many ups and downs that happen in being an entrepreneur that you have to make sure that you're willing to pick your bootstraps up and keep going. And you just never give up.
I love the fact that you just said you never give up, because too many people are fixated on becoming successful overnight, on having it all overnight. Yes. And having everything happen overnight. Yes. And nobody wants to put in a lot of a lot of people don't want to put in the hard work. And, I'm sure 32 years for you, I was an overnight success in 20 years, right? But you're right. Never give up.
Yeah. And the young people today, that is a good lesson for them to be learning today, that it doesn't happen overnight. It is a work in progress. It's just like working out, where, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a lifestyle. It's a constant. And success comes slowly as you turn your knowledge into wisdom. And once you realize that, there's those nuggets of wisdom of life and business and day to day. That's what makes you resilient, is because you learn from those mistakes and you keep getting up, because it's a journey.
So it's an important journey as well.
Yes.
And so did you journal? Did you write down your ups and downs, or do you write lists and say this works and this doesn't work? How do you focus on going forward? And what have you done?
I'm more of like that intuitive. So I'm more into my gut feel, but also backing it with data. So if you kind of can, even when you're doing interviews or trying to hire people, it's an art and a science. So if you have both, that you're thinking in the right and left brain, that's kind of how I did it. But in the beginning, it was a lot of gut feel. But then you learn from what has worked and what hasn't worked. And you do really turn that knowledge into wisdom, which is a key to recognize the difference between the two.
I love to surround myself with really incredible people, because, we talked about this earlier. We don't know everything. I certainly don't. But I'll never fail, because I know who to go to when I don't know the answer to something.
Yes.
So what have you done in order to make sure that you haven't failed, going forward?
I think the key thing is to be that trusted advisor. You have to really make sure you only have your name and your integrity, really, at the end of the day. So if you don't keep those two things in check and be seen as that person with integrity, that carries you no matter what ups and downs will happen. You will have difficult things that happen with your clients, but that's life, and you have to know how to get beyond the difficult issues. So if you really understand that you're going to make mistakes even with your clients, but that you're willing to be honest and get in front of the problem Don't stay behind it. That usually has been a big piece of advice that's helped me.
So, words of wisdom last minute of the show for anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur. You know, you've been punched down. How do you just brush yourself off and walk away with dignity?
You really have to, you have to go for it. Don't spend too much, you can get paralysis by too much analysis. If you have a good idea, you have a plan, you have support, you know how you're going to go and get it off the ground, you really should try. And even if you fail, it's okay. And you will learn so much from that experience.
I totally agree with you. I've often said to people, if you fail, it is going to be helpful towards your future.
It's a good learning.
Thank you so much for being here, Pamela, and for sharing your ups and downs of your entrepreneurship. I think it'll be helpful to a lot.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
The word resilience means the capacity to bounce back from difficult events. We are all resilient. And to help you make those important decisions, surround yourself with a group of friends and professionals so that you can bounce ideas off of each other and make good decisions for your future. And remember, every time you fail, it's actually a positive as it builds upon your foundation for success. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm trying to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.